for your support in making Perspective 2020 such a big success. In these difficult times, we have been fortunate enough to be guided by market veterans like Sameer Arora, Ramdev Agarwal, Shankar Sharma, Nilesh Shah, Nikhil Vora, and many others to count. Today's session is the last in this series, and we have a very special guest today. The ability to generate alpha in times of distress shows the capability of fund managers, and today's market veteran, Mr. Sunil Singhania, has a sterling track record in it. Mr. Sunil Singhania is a founder at Abacus Asset Management LLP. Mr. Singhania was the Chief Investment Officer at in the equities investment at Reliance Mutual Funds for over 22 years. Before his association with Reliance Mutual Funds, Mr. Singhania gained considerable experience on the sell side of the Indian equity market. He graduated in commerce from the Bombay Institute and completed his chartered accountancy from ICAI Delhi with an All India rank. He also earned the right to use the Chartered Financial Analyst designation conferred by the CFA Society of America. He is the first Indian to be elected as the director of the Global Board of Governors of CFA Society USA. He was also the promoter of Association of National Stock Exchange Member of India, a body of stockbrokers. He was also the founder of Indian Association of Investment Professionals, the CFA India Society. I'm sure a lot of us have gained a lot from that society. He was also the president for a period of continuous 8 years. Ambit Capital named him in its report, Mastery in Indian Equities. Welcome, Sunil. Sir, it's a pleasure to host you today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil sir, for agreeing to do this with us. And it is genuinely a big opportunity, for us to interact with you and share your thoughts with our investors. Over the last 2 months, we have hosted many market veterans, but today it is a very special day because we are talking to someone who has created maximum wealth for our investors. Generally in your last role at Reliance Mutual Fund, we have been big beneficiaries of many of the funds that you manage, sir. So it's a big thank you from all the investors side. I can, share it with you.
Well, thanks a lot, and thanks for having me here.
Thank you, sir. So we'll start this conversation, sir. Before we get into Indian markets, I just want you to share with us your thoughts about what is happening, things happening globally, and what is it that you are reading out of it?
So I think 2020 has been a very eventful year. Obviously, we started with some optimism, and then we had this once in a century kind of pandemic which hit us. And obviously, because we had no prior experience of a virus of this kind, we were a little bit scared, and I would say fearful. And this was a global pandemic. It started from China, and then it spread to Europe, and then US, and now it's all over the world, and India has been no different. So I think it was a very knee-jerk kind of a reaction which we saw in the month of March, which caused the market to just collapse. But however, what happened post that, obviously, is that all the central governments in the world, boosted their economy with a lot of liquidity infusion. And I think that was necessary because otherwise the economies and the general public would have just collapsed. As we moved ahead, the virus seemed to be, getting under control in some of the countries. It started from China, and we have nothing now in China. And then, even countries like Japan or Europe, there was a big abatement in terms of numbers. And that led to a sort of an optimism that this virus will slowly go off. As we speak, I think the three most impacted countries are US, Brazil, and India. And apart from India, where the numbers are rising, in the other two countries, the numbers have started to recede again. So there is a little bit of optimism. On top of it, we have had, some sort of success in, some medicines which have been launched. Possibility of a vaccine which might be launched, and that is also giving optimism. But I think the biggest thing is that wherever the opening up has happened of the economy, the numbers in terms of sales, in terms of growth, in terms of the economy coming back on track have been quite reassuring. And I think that has led to optimism coming back as far as the economies and the markets are concerned. On top of it, money is available in plenty, and money is available quite cheap because interest rates are at an all-time low across the world. And I think that liquidity, I would say, surge also is causing optimism in the market. So it's a combination of things not being as bad as what people were expecting it to be, and the liquidity surge, which is leading to the markets where they are.
Right, sir. But sir, do you think the kind of moves that we are seeing on the US market, and particularly stocks like Zoom and Tesla, are sustainable?
So see, I'm of the old school, and I obviously would like to see stocks which are cheaper. But having said that, one thing is very sure, particularly in the case of Zoom, that they have seen a fourfold increase in sales. And as we speak, we are also now talking to each other, using an electronic medium, and there's no difference between meeting personally and meeting virtually. And I think that this trend is now going to be long lasting. So whether it is work from home, meet virtually, study virtually, and I think the investors are getting more optimistic that this is a trend which is going to continue. And maybe that is the reason why investors are willing to discount maybe 3, 4, 5 years ahead. So in thematic stocks or in thematic sectors, these kind of, I would say, over optimism always happens. So I'll be very honest, I don't understand companies trading at 200, 300 PE multiples, and I don't try to invest in them. But there is definitely a moat which these companies have developed over the past few years.
Right. I know, sir, you have written very strongly about it as well, and we'll cover it in this course of this conversation with you. Now, coming back to Indian markets, do you think the current rally is being driven by a combination of zero interest rate, massive liquidity, and return of confidence in the economy? And how do you compare it with previous rallies that we have seen?
No, so I touched this. There's definitely an optimism as far as the economy is concerned. If you come to India, we have had a very, very pathetic GDP number, which was minus 24%, which was for the June quarter. But post that, the August numbers for automobiles across the board, whether it is passenger vehicles, tractors, two-wheelers, have been higher than not only July 2020, but also August 19. And that is a big thing. You have had a PMI, which has come above 52 for August, which again starts to demonstrate that we are back on the growth path. Steel companies have announced their sales for August, and even a company like Steel Authority has had almost a 25% jump in the volume sales as far as steel is concerned. So wherever there has been, opening up, we have seen good sort of response. GST collections are back to 85%. Toll collections are almost 90%. Diesel sales have come back to normal. Petrol sales are lagging, but diesel sales have come back to normal. So I think there is optimism very surely. Now, whether this continues, that is what we have to see. But the indications are that once the whole economy starts to open up, and also with the festival season coming in, I think things might only improve from here.
So, sir, will you also be in the same camp or in a different camp which believes that the market are not in sync with the reality or economic reality which is around us?
Markets will never be in sync with reality on a day-to-day basis. They will either be ahead of the economy or behind the economy. So I think in this case, we are a little bit ahead of the economy. So see, one thing we have to remember is that an equity investor has to be an optimistic person. If you are pessimistic about the future, then you should not invest in equity. If you are optimistic, aapko lagta hai ki kal will be better than yesterday and today, then only you should invest. And I think the markets are saying that. The markets are saying that, yes, we have gone through pain over the last 4, 5, 6 months, but maybe tomorrow is better than what it is today. And maybe the economy will catch up. And I think that is the hope which the markets are. But as I said, markets will always be overvalued or undervalued or ahead or behind the curve. They will never exactly be in sync. And that is a call which an investor has to take.
Correct. Very well said, sir. Now, sir, right now the E in PE is quite uncertain. So how are you assessing stock valuation while deciding to invest into stocks and segments?
So I don't agree that E is uncertain. Maybe, 5-10% E is uncertain. But if you actually see, even in the first quarter, Nifty had a profit which was 30% lower than June 19. So even in the worst kind of a scenario, Nifty had a profit. It is not that we went into a loss, so the balance sheet in fact became stronger. And there were more than enough stocks which even in this kind of a scenario either maintained or reported a profit which was higher than the last year. In fact, for us in both our portfolios, profit growth for June 2020 has been 30% higher than June 19. So it is upon us to do our research properly, to be more fundamentally focused and see where there is strength, that even in the worst scenario you are standing out and maintaining your profit. Yes, for the whole year FY21, maybe the Nifty profit might be 15% lower than last year, but it is again possible that FY22 might more than make up for the loss in profit which we have in FY21.
Got it, sir. Now, sir, when it comes to demand, there are two views about COVID. One says that the world will completely change after it. The other says people are very resilient and companies will be back to business as usual. So how are you changing your sector choices or maybe portfolio strategy because of COVID?
See, human beings are human beings. What we need to consume, we'll definitely consume. So first we come to the staples, dal, chawal, atta, soap, shampoo, toothpaste. These are all, I would say, necessities. They would continue as it is. Then you have some discretionary, which would be clothing, shoes, luxury items and so on and so forth. I think again, human beings are human beings. They would always want to, spend. The only thing is the means of spend might change. So if you're earlier buying 95% of your requirements by going to a mall or a shop, maybe now you'll buy 60% going to a mall and 40% online. So the means will change. The requirement will remain the same. There might be some consumption items which might see a little bit of reduction. So maybe super luxury items, they might see a temporary slowdown because people would be a little bit apprehensive about spending too much, but let's see. And there will be some products like you might go out to eat a little less, you might go out to see a movie a little less. Travel might take some time. Even if you travel, maybe you will travel within India more than you want to go outside India because of the various restrictions, but you will still do it. So I think human beings are human beings. Consumption will come back. What you spend on might reduce. So if you are, working from home, maybe you need an extra laptop, you need a more stable or faster Wi-Fi connection. You might need a slightly bigger house, and you might need a smaller office. If everyone is going to be home, you might need more electronics. You might need a dishwasher, a washing machine, and AC, and so on and so forth. So the products might change a little bit, but ultimately you're going to spend. Instead of buying more formal shirts, maybe you'll buy more t-shirts because you're not going to go to office every single day of the week. You might decide to work 2 days, 3 days in a week from home. So consumption will come back. Maybe some parts might see a bigger jump in terms of sales. Some products might see a slowdown in sales.
So any new sector or themes that you see emerging out of this COVID pandemic?
So very clearly, what the COVID has basically done is made us aware that we can do a lot of things a little differently. So students can study from home. We can work from home. You don't need to travel to meet people. So I think some sectors which will be impacted will be definitely travel and all. But some sectors which are going to be positively impacted are going to be obviously anything to do with digital. So anything online which has a moat will do very well. With a lag, maybe telecom companies will do very well because that has become the biggest consumption items. The first thing you get up in the morning, you need your phone and Wi-Fi. The last thing before you sleep, you need your phone and Wi-Fi. So that again will come up as a big sector. E-commerce is coming up in a big way. So before COVID, 3-4% of sales in India were on e-commerce. During COVID, it went up to almost 23-24%. Now let's see how it pans out. So e-commerce would be a big theme. So I think there are opportunities definitely coming in, and it's already visible. You all yourself mentioned of how Zoom prices have moved up 5-6 times.
Yes.
So these are new age sectors which will benefit from what has happened because of the COVID.
Sir, in India, particularly on information technology side, we have not seen any big innovation happening in, whether we talk about Facebook, Amazon, or anything. Everything has happened in US. And since you travel so much and you interact with all large fund houses and fund managers across the globe, recently the kind of things which Reliance ended up doing, raising such a mammoth kind of money in such a difficult period, how does it speak about India and this whole digital movement which is coming in?
So see, if you see Indian companies, and we have two sectors which are globally competitive. One is IT and one is pharma. And in both the sectors, unfortunately, our companies have become the back office, or the operations, or the supporters. And the reason they have not spent too much on innovation is that Indian investors want profit every quarter. And when you have that kind of a psychology, the companies will never spend too much on R&D, because then the current quarter's profits, current year's profit take a toss, and I think take a beating, and that is what has happened. That is number one. Second is, we always blame the government, that the government should do more reforms. I would say that we are one of the most open countries in the world. We allowed the Amazons and the Googles and the Uber and the Facebook to come 100% in India. China restricted them, and therefore in China we have Alibaba, we have Tencent, we have WeChat. In India we don't have, because we already had all these global guys with deep pockets come into the country. Now the Indian government has banned a few apps from China. Now see the kind of ecosystem which the Indian companies are able to create. We will have some very, very good products. So I think some way we were too open, some way we were too conservative. And the ecosystem in the US ensured that these companies were able to raise risk capital and spend. That ecosystem did not exist in India 4-5 years back. It is now coming to India. So hopefully going forward, we will have a few innovative things coming out of India. Byju, for example, is the most valuable education startup in the world.
Right, sir.
I think we are getting there. Ola is now a global company. It's the second largest hotel company in the world in terms of number of rooms.
Right, sir. Right.
Oyo rooms.
Yeah. And how do you look at the money raised by Reliance? I mean, is it a big India movement kind of thing which has finally happened and arrived?
So one thing which Jio Platforms did is bring India back into the, I would say, top horizon or top list as far as global investors are concerned. When you have $20 billion raised in a month or so from most marquee investors, including Facebook and Google, all the other investors in the world, got up and started to take notice. And I think that is definitely going to help, get India, help India get huge flows, which you're already seeing. In August, for example, we had 45,000 crores come in from foreign investors, the highest in a month in the last 12 years. So Jio Platform has helped bring India back into the mainstream as far as investor interest or attention is concerned.
Right, sir. Now, sir, we are seeing a very strange situation right now. Stocks and gold both are rallying at the same time. Why is it happening, and what will be your view on gold? I mean, has it peaked out, or we still have a lot of room left?
So see, gold, you cannot produce more than what you are able to produce. So there is a scarcity as far as supply is concerned. Now, gold demand used to be in India for actual use. It used to be never for investment purposes. And now the world has started to invest in gold as an asset class because it has started to do consistently well. The other thing is that whenever there is scare in the world, gold has become like a safe haven. So gold starts to do well. And most importantly, US has started to, US dollar has started to weaken. and it is inversely proportionate to all commodities, including gold and even metals. So that is also supporting it. But I think becoming mainstream investment class has meant that the ETFs of the in the world, gold ETFs in the world, constantly keep on getting subscription. And when you get subscription, you have to buy gold. And as I said, there is not enough which can be made on an annual basis. So I think I don't understand gold, and I have publicly stated that the women in India are better fund managers than us, because they have always believed in gold, and gold has done better than any other asset class over the last so many years. So I would admit I don't understand gold, but at this point of time, it seems to be in a sweet spot.
Correct. Got it, sir. Now, sir, bankruptcies in the US have increased in spite of the kind of a support that the US government has provided to these companies. In India, the government hasn't given so much support. Do you think we will see a wave of bankruptcies here too? And what impact our banks and NBFCs can have because of that?
So when this kind of a phenomena like COVID happens, you definitely have a lot of companies and businesses which will face stress. India would be no different than any other part of the world. The only difference is that post-Lehman, the balance sheet of Indian corporate took a big beating. This time, the balance sheet of Indian corporate generally have not been that bad. Yes, there are sectors like retail, real estate, maybe travel-related sectors, malls, which might face a near-term issue, and there might be some, I would say, stress because of that. But it is expected that if you give them a little bit of time, a lot of them can come back on track. So I think we definitely expect the provisioning to go up. And the good thing is that Indian corporates have already made good provisions, both in March quarter as well as June quarter. And therefore, the next 3 quarters look to be pretty much, normal. They might have to make some provision, but not extraordinary provision. So at the margin, I would be positive on banks and NBFCs which have good parentage and which can raise liability at a decent price.
And in fact, the Reserve Bank of India has given permission to restructure some of these pandemic-related loans also. So you think it will also have an impact and can be better on these?
It will help in, I would say, normalizing the businesses which are under stress. It will give them time to bring their accounts back to normal.
Got it, sir. Now, sir, a lot of people, have written to us that this is the time to go for stronger and bigger companies as they are more resilient in the case of downturn. If bankruptcies do happen, I mean, some of them will surely be happening. If they do happen, among unlisted companies, won't these bigger guys be increasing their market share? And perhaps why the valuation of these companies are actually going up day by day?
I would say that India is a huge economy and a huge country, and there are a lot of small businesses, but it is true for even some of the Western countries. It is not that in US you only have large companies, you have smaller companies also. But to an extent you are right, maybe in some sectors like, now Amazon and JioMart and, Flipkart and all are there. It is definitely impacting the Nukkad Ki Dukaan or, the mom and pop shows which are shops which are there, because sales ultimately are shifting a little bit. So there will be definitely an impact. There might be some other smaller businesses which might get impacted in the near term at least. But I think there is definitely move towards more business shifting to the organized sector, but it is not going to be like unorganized sector will just not be there. I think we will gradually move, but both will have to coexist.
So you don't see the scenario of big becoming bigger and better in comparison to the smaller ones?
So as I said, they will, but it's going to be a very, very long drawn thing. It's not going to happen overnight. In fact, I would say in the pandemic, who came to your sort of, use? It was the shops which were near your house.
Correct.
they came actually handy because the larger shops were all shut. So I think there is a room for both kind of businesses to sustain simultaneously. But yes, in some sectors, maybe, you know, the smaller guys might not be in a position to compete.
Right, sir. Now, sir, what would be your advice to our investors at these levels? The markets have definitely gone up a lot from their March lows. Should they be going ahead and continue to invest at these levels, or the time has come to book out something?
Because investors are investors. And, you know, I would call myself also an investor. In March, people were ruining that why are they invested. Today, people are unhappy because they are not invested. You know, so it is always a very, very difficult kind of a scenario or a difficult advice to give. You know, in March and April, even if you shouted at the top of your voice, no one would have invested any money. You know, because there would have been 20 reasons to give why not to invest. And today also the same investor will have 20 other reasons of why not to invest. So I would say that there is no right time or no wrong time. As I said earlier, if you want to invest in equity, you have to be optimistic. You have to believe that tomorrow is going to be better than today. Then only you should invest in equity. And I think if you invest with the purpose of of long-term wealth creation from a 3-4 years perspective, I am very sure that equity will end up doing well. Yes, last 5-6 years experience has not been all that great, but now the return expectations from equity is also not that high. आप FD में अगर आप रुपया लगा रहे हो, what you get 4-5% in the near term, of which the government of India is your 30-40% partner because of tax. So you end up making 2.5-3%. I think equity is definitely looking like giving you low double-digit return there.
So isn't that also one of the very big reason of, you know, people putting up such large liquidity into our markets now, because you are not left with many more options now in hand?
No, that might be one of them. Second is obviously the investors who came in fresh first time in March, April, May, and because they were sitting at home, they were doing small trades. They had a good experience.
Yes.
And therefore they got emboldened to do more. What we have to see is once there is a correction of some kind, what happens to these investors? I think that is what you have to see. So I think the only advice I can give right now is that if you are directly investing or punting, please be aware of these tips. You know, you are going to get stuck, definitely. You know, if you are investing from a fundamental perspective, no problem. You know, even if the stock price goes down over a period of time, it will come back again and make you money. But if you're just investing on the basis of tips, ya khabar, you know, you are going to have it someday.
Right, sir. Right. Now, sir, it is said that, you know, markets always peak when there is a lot of euphoria. The market has run up quite sharply, but there is no euphoria right now. You talk to anybody, the advice that we get is be cautious. Does this mean that we still have a lot of room left, you know, for this rally to be continuing and going ahead?
So I would agree with you that there is no euphoria. I would also agree with you that people have so much money in their bank accounts, they don't know what to do. And it's a matter of fact. And therefore, I think there is merit in saying that at every dip, there will be flows which will come in. Having said that, I think we have to be again cognizant of the fact that what are we getting into? You know, if you are investing in equity with the expectation of making 50% in 1 week or 50% in 1 month, please don't enter the equity markets. You know, problem kya hai? Out of 100 rupees which you have, 95% is in banks. There you get 4% or 5%, you don't even bother. This 5% which is in equity, you want to sit on a minute-to-minute basis. You want to talk to your fund manager every day. And you also want to curse him the moment you lose 2-3%. So equity also cannot give you 40-50% return. You know, if you are satisfied with a decent double-digit return, then, you know, you will always make money. But you know, to try and micromanage that I will buy this and I will sell it at 50% higher, That's a matter of luck. That is not investment.
Right, right. Now, Sunil sir, I would like you to take you back to your Reliance days. I remember, I think when you joined Reliance Mutual Fund, the AUM, I think equity AUM of the fund should have been something like 100 crores.
No, it was 50 crores, 45, 50 crores.
Okay. And I think when you left, it was somewhere close to 80,000 crores.
So equity AUM was around 75,000 crores. Total AUM was 2,70,000 crores.
Yeah. So what I wanted to understand on this side with you is that it's been a long journey. How has been your journey and what has been biggest learnings for you in this long period?
So see, one is, as I said, if you want to be an equity investor, you have to be optimistic. If you are negative, के तो डूब जाएगा, कोरोना से 1 करोड़ लोग मर जाएंगे, इंडिया और चाइना का वॉर हो जाएगा, ट्रम्प हार जाएगा, मोदी हार जाएगा. If you just keep on finding some reason not to invest, you will always keep on cursing equity markets and miss out the big opportunity. Second is always treat it as a disciplined investment approach. Don't treat it as a satta or a speculative kind of a thing. And third is have confidence in what you do. So whatever research you want to do, not do it before you get into something, whether it is direct stock or a mutual fund or an AIF. After you have done your research and handed over that and taken a call, give the stock or the person some time. So when I joined Reliance, I think, as I said, we were around 40, 50 crores. I think one thing which I believed in at that point of time, which I continue to believe now, is that India grows because of entrepreneurs and despite the government. So it is entrepreneurs, good entrepreneurs who grow their companies and who grow the economy. So I think whenever you invest in a company, please look at the entrepreneur, which is the management. It becomes very, very important. Second is don't sell a stock just because it has gone up. So two of my biggest mistakes have been selling Bajaj Finance and Eicher Motor very, very early in my life. So Bajaj Finance, we had 8-9%, which we had bought beginning from 400 crores market cap. And by the time the market cap reached 2,500 crores, we had sold off everything because we were making so much money. Today, the market cap is maybe 2 lakh crores after even reacting 20-25%. Same is the case with Eicher Motor. We used to own 9% of the company, bought at like 300-400 crore market cap. At 1,500 crores market cap, we sold everything. And today the market cap, even after falling, is around 50-60,000 crores. So don't sell just because the price has moved up. And third is, somewhere we start to fall in love with a company, even though the price is showing something else. 100 में खरीदा 80 हो गया, बोले नहीं, किसको समझ में नहीं आता है, इसमें ये है, इसमें हो, then it falls to 60, then it falls to 50. So you just keep on justifying to yourself because you don't want to admit that you have made a mistake. So I think the biggest learning is that if you feel that you have made a mistake, and that is not only because of price fall, mistake can be, price fall is one indication. You don't have to necessarily go with it. But fundamentally, if you start to believe that you have made a mistake, correct it at the first opportune time. And fourth is don't get influenced by what others are doing. पेपर में नाम आता है इसने खरीद लिया और आपने अगले दिन जाके खरीद लिया, और किसका नाम आता है कि ये शेयर इसने खरीद लिया, आपने अगले दिन जाके खरीद लिया. Boss, every investor has a different appetite, different size, different portfolio. If someone has bought 5 crores worth of some stock, it might be 5 crores in a 5,000 crore portfolio. आप जाके अपने पोर्टफोलियो का 10% ले लोगे वो स्टॉक और उसमें नुकसान हो गया, तो you have no one to blame. So you have to do what is right for you, not what someone else is doing. So I think these are good learnings. And the other important thing is that equity investing is a full-time job. It cannot be a part-time job. You can't get up in the morning, dial 2-3 friends, find out what is to be bought and sold, and believe that you will do very, very well. It requires a lot of commitment. It's a full-time job. You require a lot of people. Even in a small company like Abacus, we have 11 people on the investment side, analysts and all, who keep on meeting companies, discussing with them and doing research. So it's a full-time thing. If you take it casually, it is like, playing with money. the outcome is not going to be very, very great. So I think this would be a few, suggestions.
Right. Sir, you definitely shared some of the weaknesses, weak stocks or other failures, I would say, that you ended up selling them pretty early. But you have had spectacular career and spectacular stock picks that you did. Share some of them as well with us.
No, so I think there have been few, frankly, and I would not like to take credit of all of them myself. We had a great team at Reliance. We had almost 16, 17 people working in the team. And I would say that the team contributed a lot, So among our successes have been Divi's Laboratory, which we bought in 2004. And till I left, we still had it. I'm sure they still own it. It has been like, 200 bagger for us. During that time, we had other, big successes like Siemens, which no one was looking at. Jindal Steel and Power, which was 100 bagger for us. I mentioned to you Bajaj Finance and Eicher Motors. So there have been quite a few, and I would say that that from time to time, different things have worked, but the only common theme has been that when we bought, we worked very hard in understanding the company, in understanding the business, and then we gave time for the company to fulfill its I would say advantages or fulfill its potential, because nothing can happen in 1 year. You have to give 2-3 years for a company to fulfill its potential. So I would say that if you come across a good company and you're positive on the potential of that company from a longer term perspective, then you have to give it time. And when it will start to just blossom, you'll never know. But and we have seen so many companies, even in this COVID kind of an environment, which have gone up 2, 3, 4 times. The background work was done 2, 3 years back. It is only that now you're seeing the results.
Absolutely, I agree with you, sir. And I remember, interacting with you long back when I think you had bought in your small cap fund a company called Atul Limited. Yeah. Maybe it was available at some 200, 300 rupees, and today the stock is what, maybe 6,000.
So it was like 300-400 crore market cap, but it had one of the largest infrastructure in India. One of the largest infrastructure. The station is called Atul.
Right.
So that is the kind of infrastructure they had, and best of best collaborations. But again, you had to give it time. अभी जितने में लिया उतना तो आजकल एक दिन में ऊपर नीचे हो जाता है शेयर.
बिल्कुल sir, absolutely. Now, so on this context, what I wanted to understand from you, sir, is that how do you decide to come up with some of these ideas? How does it happen? How do you hunt for ideas and then sit on them?
So see, there is no rule as such. The only thing, as I said, is I personally read a lot of balance sheet. I read 1,000-1,500 balance sheets a year, and I've been doing that for such a long period of time. So there are various ways of doing it. One is obviously you have 11 people on the research side. So together we track 350-400 companies. Then you also have secondary research tools, like sometimes management comes on TV, newspapers, you get an indication. There are commodity prices, product prices, which you keep on tracking. Then you also have, quantitative research. So you will basically run queries that please give me companies which have ROE of more than 15%, for example. So those kind of things which you do. But I would say the biggest success which any investor can have is by personal experiences. And I will give you an example, So my son was born in 1997. And when he was born, the doctor told me to get 3 injections of hepatitis B. And तभी जेब में 50 रुपया हुआ करते थे. So I went to the medical shop. I said I want these 3 injections, and the injections used to cost 5-10 rupees. तभी तो दवाइयाँ बहुत सस्ती थी. And each injection was 3,500 rupees. So I needed 10,500. So I said I'll come back tomorrow. The next day I went, bought the injection, saw which company makes the injection. And I was just telling to myself that if every kid has to be given 10,000 rupees worth of injection, imagine the kind of sales which this company would be doing. Yes. And that day I bought SKF. That time it used to be called SKF. Glaxo Pharma used to be called SKF. And मेरा पूरा hospital का खर्चा वो एक stock ने निकाल दिया. So sometimes a lot of things are personal experience. So the moment you started to bank with HDFC Bank, it was a clear indication. The moment you started moving to the life insurance companies of the world, it was a clear indication. You know, the moment you started trading on ISEC and Zerodhas of the world, you know that the trend is changing. You know, there's so many other things. Domino's, everyone is now ordering at home. आपको अगर पहले आपने अगर वो trend पकड़ लिया होता, तो you would have made a lot of money. So a lot of these things are actually personal observation, you know. And वो बोलते हैं ना, जो passionate equity investor होगा ना, whenever I go to the shop, the first thing I do is, you know, look at the product and then see the label कि इसको बनाता कौन है. You know, so I think that is, again, it's not a quantitative kind of an analysis, but it's a practical approach of,
Right.
of doing research.
So that's what we call passion, sir. Passion for equities. Now, sir, you and Madhu sir both have been like Jay and Viro of investing community. Now, I know for the fact that both of you have been very successful and a very long career at Reliance, and both of you respect each other a lot. Now, what I wanted to understand from you, spending so much time together in stock analysis, investing, share something with us that you know, has been very exciting between both of us. And I'm sure that, you know, when you were discussing stock ideas, there must have been disagreements as well on many stocks. So how you finally used to settle down and, you know, arrive at a conclusion whether you should be going and buying and not buying, for that matter?
So see, one thing is, whenever you are working as a team, and, you know, obviously Madhu and I worked very closely, but there were other members of the team also. One thing is very clear, that for any teamwork or partnership to move ahead, you should have mutual confidence and trust. You know, so you have to trust each other. You have to have confidence in each other. अगर आपको लगेगा नहीं मैं ही शाना हूँ और सामने वाले को कुछ पता नहीं है, तो then teamwork doesn't work. Then it becomes मैं rather than we. The other thing is, everyone will have a different strength and different weakness. I think you have to start recognizing the strength and weakness of each other. So, you know, so for example, Madhu knew my strength in analyzing numbers and balance sheet. And I knew Madhu's strength in analyzing the broad market sentiment, you know, and I think that worked. So I knew what to buy, Madhu knew when to buy. I think that made a big difference, and how to buy. Also, as I said, you know, there will always be differences. When differences happen, you have to have one person get away with it. And it cannot be the same person. So sometimes you will let go, sometimes the other person let go. And that is how you work for 15, 16 years. And even now, though we are doing our own stuff separately, we are still, you know, very closely interacting with each other and sharing ideas. So that becomes very important, you know. So I think the advice would be that whenever you are working as a team, you know, work as if every member of the team is adding some value, and respect that. Then only the team can sustain. Otherwise, वो बिखर जाएगी.
Absolutely. In fact, I'll tell you, sir, we were interacting with Madhu sir last week, and you know, he shared a very nice anecdote. He said that शेयर बाजार में सिर्फ दो चीज होता है पब्लिक इन्वेस्टिंग में, एक एक्सपीरियंस, एक पैसा. पैसा उस आदमी को दो जिसके पास एक्सपीरियंस है, उसको आपके पैसे से एक्सपीरियंस मत कमाने दो.
Very true.
So in this context, I would like to ask you, do you also believe, sir, that when it comes to investing, investor must invest with experienced fund managers rather than trying new ones?
See, there are advantages of both, but I'll give you a perspective. In a bull market, everyone will be a hero, because the easiest thing to do is just buy. You know, the true, I would say, trait of a successful fund manager comes in when you see challenging times. And that's why my view is that back a person who has seen 3-4 bull and bear markets. Because, you know, the joy of bull market is good, but the pain of bear market is 100 times the joy of a bull market. And बोलते ना, जो मंदी में survive कर गया ना, वो strong हो जाता है. So I would say that. At the same time, I think what we tend to do, even in Abacus, we have a mix of analysts. We have very experienced guys and we have some young guys. because the young guys bring in a different perspective to the whole way of looking at things. We will never know what a gaming company is. We will never know what an online company is, or it will take us time. The young guys would be far, far ahead than we are. So I think there are some advantages, but I would say that when you are giving someone money to manage, that person has to have had at least 3-4 cycles of bull and bear market, which he has seen.
Sir, who are your heroes in the market?
Yeah, I would not like to name anyone because everyone has a different perspective. But I read quite a few well-known, I would say fund managers. Howard Marks is someone, I don't know how good or bad as a fund manager is, but he writes very logically. Jeremy Grantham of GMO writes very, very good stuff. So these are a few things you tend to sort of follow in terms of what they are writing.
Sir, any entrepreneur who has inspired you a lot in your long investing journey?
बहुत है. Was मेरा तो सबसे बड़ा motivation in life of being a fund manager is that every day you meet so many passionate businessmen, entrepreneurs, and so many successful people. I once went to Delhi. We had a stake in a company called Orient Cement, which is a Birla Group company. And, I happened to have lunch with Mr. C.K. Birla. And I was telling him that, my profession is so good that it has allowed me to have lunch with a Birla. And I'm so pleased because my father worked in a Birla company for 50 years. So I think the good thing about being an investor is that you are able to connect with the best and best minds and the most passionate entrepreneurs. So there have been a lot of entrepreneurs who have inspired us, a lot of entrepreneurs. I think the good thing about India, as I said, is that we have so many entrepreneurs. And that's why I always say that India grows because of entrepreneurs and despite the government.
Right, sir. Now, lastly, what I wish to understand from you is, sir, that there is a big debate about this value versus growth. And I think a year back you wrote a blog as well on this, stating that there is a big bubble in quality stocks. Now, do you still think that the company is growing at 10% or 15%, quoting at 60-70p, still doesn't make sense at all?
तो देखो मैं आपको एकदम सिंपल भाषा में समझाता हूँ. Suppose if you want to make 12% return and the company is growing at 10%. So to make 12% return every year, the PE will have to go up by 2%. So 10% of your return will come from profit growth, 2% will come from PE expansion, and that's why you will make 12% return. Now, over 10 years, if you have to do this, then the PE of the stock, which is currently trading at 80, will have to become 110. So for you to make 12% return, the company will have to trade at 110 PE after 10 years, which has never happened in the world, that for 10, 15, 20 years, companies trade at 70, 80 PE multiple. The other way to look at it is, suppose you had $25 billion. आप पे भगवान मेहरबान हो गया और बोला विकास लो ये $25 billion. And I come to you and I say, Vikas, now you have $25 billion. Buy this company, which is making $300 million of profit. So I come and say that give me your 1,75,000 crores. उसके बदले में आपको मैं एक कंपनी देता हूं जिसका साल का प्रॉफिट 2,000 करोड़ है. क्या आप लोगे वो कंपनी?
नहीं सर.
तो आप तो अभी कैलकाटा के हो, आप तो पहले ब्याज कैलकुलेट करोगे 1,75,000 रुपए में साल का कितना ब्याज कमाऊंगा. So if you are not going to buy the company 100%, then why should you buy the shares in the company? Because technically by buying a share, you're becoming a partner in the company. That is a very, very simple way of looking at it. So I don't mind paying a 40p stock for a company which is growing at 20-25%. But for a company growing at 10%, I cannot justify paying a 60p.
Right. So, sir, is it technically happening because of a lot of ETF buyings taking place, a lot of index management?
अभी जिसके पास ये shares हैं, they have done well in terms of performance. So now people like you will see एक साल का performance किसका अच्छा है, बोले उसको पैसा दे दो. So they get more money. When they get more money, what will they do? Buy the same shares more. Then again, they will do better. Then you'll give them more money. So till the circle breaks, this will continue. Second, as you rightly said, a lot of these stocks have come into various indices. The moment you come into indices, we have dumb money which comes in. When I say passive money, it is dumb money because irrespective of the fundamentals, the fund manager will have to buy those shares. So that is also causing this. But this cannot go on forever. I think there will always be a phase, and then it will start to correct.
Right. So we are coming almost at the end of the kind of time that we got it with you. But I would like to ask you, there are a lot of questions which have come in from the investor side. Maybe I can summarize and ask you one of them. I can't ask you to give us stock recommendations or anything for that matter, but sectors or themes that you think will really do well over next 2-3 years, if you could share something with us.
So see, I think India has, as I said, global competitiveness in two sectors, IT and pharma. Pharma has done very, very well. Maybe it will consolidate for some time, but it is still a sector which is going to be very, very good. So I don't know whether you should buy it now or maybe after a correction, because the prices have moved up significantly, because it is a sector where India has huge global competitiveness. But the sector which has moved up but not much, but where India can do really well is still IT. So I would say that from a 3 years perspective, this is a sector where you can cumulatively make 50% return.
Right. Great, sir. Thank you so much, Sunil sir, for spending this afternoon with us. And
thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, sir. This was the last episode. We keep doing many, many things, and I'm sure when we'll be doing something very different, we'll try and reach out to you once again, and I'm sure we'll get an opportunity to hear you once again.
Sure.
It's been absolutely pleasure, and it's been a great learning with you, sir, today. Thank you so much.
Happy investing and stay safe. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Same to you, sir. Thank you so much.